Flight 247 to Los Angeles is now closing. The announcement folds through the air like a velvet curtain, smooth, final. She steps into the first-class cabin with her boarding pass open, the gold edge of the ticket trembling slightly between her fingers. The air smells of citrus disinfectant and expensive leather. A young flight attendant turns, smiles, automatically, then freezes. "I'm sorry, ma'am," the attendant says, voice tightening. "This section is for first-class passengers only." The woman blinks. "I am a first-class passenger." A pause. The attendant's eyes skim her jeans, her brown skin, the worn leather tote slung over one shoulder. The smile stays polite, sharp as glass. "Of course. Could I just see your ticket again?" She hands it over. The scanner chirps green. Still, the attendant hesitates, glancing toward the cockpit. "It's just, we had a few seat mix-ups earlier." Behind her, someone sighs audibly, the collective impatience of the privileged. The cabin hums with the sound of approval that never includes her. She inhales slowly. The edges of the ticket dig into her palm like proof that cuts. "I'm in the right seat," she says, voice low but unwavering. "You just don't see it yet." Outside, the door alarm beeps 1 minute until final close. Inside, every eye is a question mark aimed at her existence. The attendant still doesn't move. Her seat waits 3 steps away, glowing under soft cabin light like a promise she's not yet allowed to touch. Have you ever been in a place where you belonged, yet someone looked at you like you didn't? Before we go any further, I want to know, where are you listening from right now? What city? What country? Tell me in the comments, because stories like this aren't just American, they happen everywhere. And if you believe every voice deserves to be heard, hit that subscribe button and stay with us. Now, let's take a breath, because what happens next isn't just awkward, it's a test of how calm can become power. The air doesn't move. It only judges. She feels it, the static of waiting passengers, the unspoken questions hovering like gnats. The attendant still holds her ticket, eyes darting between the screen and her face, searching for a mismatch that doesn't exist. The scanner's green light pulses softly, like a heartbeat the system refuses to believe. Behind her, someone clears his throat. The sound carries authority, middle-aged, white, expensive. "Maybe she's lost," he mutters. The voice isn't loud, but the cabin hears it anyway. Laughter ripples once, then dies quickly, leaving a vacuum of guilt that no one fills. Her throat tightens, but she doesn't move. She's been here before, not this seat, but this silence. She can feel the press of eyes crawling over her shoes, her jacket, the simple silver chain around her neck. Every detail now an argument against belonging. "I assure you," the attendant tries again. "We just want to make sure everything's correct." "It's correct," she replies. Her tone stays level, controlled, the kind of control that costs energy. Her fingers find the edge of her tote bag. Inside, her laptop hums on sleep mode. The screen's still open to a script draft titled "The Seat." She almost laughs at the irony. "You know," a woman's voice says from across the aisle, "she looks like that producer on Netflix, the one who did Glass River." A beat. Then the same man's voice answers dryly, "If she were, she wouldn't fly commercial." Another laugh, softer this time, but sharper. She turns her head slowly. The man looks away. Her pulse is steady now, not fast, like a metronome counting how long she'll stand invisible before she vanishes again. The attendant still hasn't moved. "Would you like me to call a supervisor?" she offers, as if granting mercy. The woman smiles faintly. "You're mistaking presence for privilege," she says. The words land quietly, but the tone slices clean. A pause, a visible ripple through the cabin, as if someone adjusted the temperature by 1 degree. The announcement hums overhead again. "Passengers seated in first class, please prepare for door closure." That single sentence pushes air back into her lungs. She steps forward. 1 step, 2. The attendant doesn't block her, but doesn't move aside either a wall built from policy and politeness, Her hand brushes the leather of seat 3A. Cool, smooth. She can feel her reflection in the window, the city fading outside. "Ma'am, please," the attendant murmurs, her smile trembling now. "I am," the woman says, "exactly where my ticket says I should be." Her voice doesn't rise. It sinks deep, deliberate, anchoring itself in the still air. For a moment, no one breathes. The scanner light still glows green on the attendant's tablet. It looks, absurdly, like permission. And yet, she's still standing. The woman exhales, slow and steady, then takes her seat anyway, not because she's allowed, but because she refuses not to. The plane hums, engines stirring awake, while judgment lingers like a scent that refuses to fade. Somewhere in her bag, her laptop screen dims to black, the title, "The Seat," glowing faintly before disappearing. The cabin lights dim to that artificial twilight airlines use to calm nerves. It doesn't work. Not when every sound feels sharpened, the rattle of an overhead bin, the click of a pen, the whisper of someone recording. A voice from the PA. "We're awaiting verification of one final ticket. Thank you for your patience." Patience. The word lands like a slap wrapped in velvet. She's been patient for 40 years. The flight attendant's smile has congealed into protocol. "It'll just take a minute, ma'am." Her tablet screen reflects in the window. Green. Unwavering. Meaningless. From behind, the man in seat 2B leans forward. "Maybe just let them handle it," he says softly, performing concern for the audience. "You don't want to make a scene." She turns her head slightly. "A scene?" He shrugs, already retreating. "These things happen. These things." Her pulse ticks in her ears, not fast, just relentless, like the aircraft's auxiliary power hum. She looks around. Every gaze averts too late, pretending not to have been caught watching. She realizes she's standing at the intersection of disbelief and performance, a place she's written about, dissected in scripts, but never thought she'd have to live in again. The supervisor arrives male, pressed uniform, polished politeness. "Good afternoon. What seems to be the issue?" The attendant exhales in visible relief, handing over the tablet like a confession. Her ticket scanned green, but I wanted to confirm. She stops herself, just before saying, "Doesn't look the part." The supervisor glances at the passenger, then at her boarding pass. "Miss Carver?" "Yes." He studies the name, the barcode, the date, everything matches. Yet he doesn't hand it back immediately. He looks at her instead, that long managerial look that measures tone before truth. "Ma'am," he says, voice calm and careful, "I'm sure you understand. These are tight protocols. No one's questioning your status. We just need to keep things orderly. So if you could, please, lower your voice. It's unsettling to others." She hadn't raised it, not once. Something inside her folds tight, not anger, but the exhaustion of restraint. It's an emotion without volume, only gravity. Across the aisle, a young woman has her phone out, screen angled discreetly. The red recording dot glows in reflection. She isn't the only one filming. "Lower my voice?" The words are quiet, deliberate. Professionalism isn't silence under humiliation. The supervisor's smile flickers. He wasn't expecting diction. He was expecting apology. The intercom buzzes again. A countdown reminder. "Cabin crew, doors closing in 5 minutes." Her heartbeat syncs with it, not panic, but timing. This, she realizes, is the moment stories pivot, when the ordinary becomes evidence. "Look," the supervisor says, glancing at the recording phones now, multiplying like witnesses. "No one's attacking you. Let's just stay calm, okay?" "I am calm," she says. "You're the ones shaking." He doesn't respond. The attendant looks ready to vanish. For a moment, everything stills. The plane seems to hold its breath. Then, a voice from somewhere mid-cabin says, "I'm streaming this, by the way." It isn't a threat, just information. but it detonates the atmosphere. Every false smile falters. The supervisor's posture stiffens. The woman, Miss Carver, exhales. Finally, a record that doesn't rely on permission. She glances toward the window again. Outside, the tarmac lights blur through the glass twin streaks of gold and blue, like the colors of control and consequence. Somewhere deep in the fuselage, the engines groan awake. She can feel it under her feet. The hum of a machine ready to move, even if the people inside it aren't. The supervisor clears his throat. "Please, take your seat, ma'am." His tone is final, corporate. She looks at him, really looks, then sits, slowly, not obeying but reclaiming motion. The cabin exhales with her, a collective relief disguised as order. But the phone cameras keep glowing. The Livestream counter blinks. 20 viewers. Small, but enough to start a story. She folds her hands, the boarding pass between her fingers, its edge cutting a thin white line across her palm. Somewhere inside her, a line of dialogue writes itself quiet, almost prayer-like. Let them record the silence. It says more than my anger ever could. And the engines hum louder, like applause, from a world just beginning to notice. The cabin settles into a tense quiet, not peace, but pause. Engines hum steady beneath her feet, that mechanical purr meant to soothe. It only reminds her that motion is happening without her consent. Her seatbelt lies unused across her lap, the metal buckle catching faint light from the window. Outside, the runway gleams under sodium lamps, endless and flat, a promise of escape she hasn't earned yet. She closes her eyes. 1 breath in, 2 out. Her therapist once said, breathing resets narrative control. Every inhale is a new scene. Every exhale, a cut to clarity. She tries, but the air feels rationed. Around her, conversation resumes in cautious murmurs. "Just a misunderstanding," someone whispers. "She handled it well," another says, as if grating composure. Composure. It's the currency of the disbelieved. She straightens her back. Her body remembers posture as armor. The flight attendant walks past, slower this time, her earlier confidence thinned into discomfort. Their eyes meet brief, human, almost apology, then gone. She doesn't hate her. Not exactly. She hates the script, written into both of them. One cast as threat, the other as gatekeeper, both trapped in someone else's story. Her gaze drifts to the laptop in her tote bag. The script title, "The Seat," lingers in memory. She remembers the last line she wrote. "The seat is not power, it's proof." At the time, it sounded poetic. Now, it feels literal. The PA crackles. "Cabin crew, prepare for final door check." Another countdown ticked away. Another voice, telling her what's closing. She inhales again, this time slower. The oxygen tastes metallic, filtered, sterile, like neutrality pretending to be kindness. She looks around the cabin. Rows of people pretending to scroll, avoiding her eyes, polite invisibility. It strikes her how effortlessly the world edits discomfort out of the frame. A child 2 rows ahead glances back, maybe 6 years old, dark curls, brown skin like hers. Their eyes meet. The child waves, small and curious. The woman smiles a reflex, fragile but real. For a second, her pulse softens. A bridge, unspoken, stretches across the cabin, one honest look that doesn't ask her to shrink. The engines surge. The plane lurches slightly, then steadies. Cabin lights dim further, the sky outside bleeding from orange to gray. She thinks about the seat again, not the chair beneath her, but the metaphor that's been haunting her scripts. How every story she's ever produced was about someone fighting to be seen. She's written redemption so many times, she's forgotten what it feels like to need it. She opens her phone, fingers trembling slightly, types a note she doesn't plan to send. They think silence is grace, but grace isn't stillness. It's surviving the noise. From mile. Friendus. Idumen. She saves it. Locks the screen. Her reflection stares back in the window, calm, deliberate, not defeated. Outside, a mechanic walks across the tarmac, headset glowing in the dark. The light flickers twice, then steady a signal she doesn't understand, but takes as permission. She exhales. The air finally leaves her lungs like a confession. Maybe that's all control really is, not loudness, not fight, but breathing through someone else's doubt. A ding sounds overhead. Doors secured. Cabin ready for departure. She fastens her seatbelt. The click echoes like punctuation. And somewhere deep inside, a quiet decision begins to form, not to forgive, not yet, but to rewrite. In her mind, a single line surfaces, unbidden but clear. Every story needs a scene that breathes before it burns. Outside, the last sliver of sunset slips away, leaving only reflection, her face, the window, and a seat that's starting to mean something entirely new. The plane hums as it taxis, engines vibrating through the floor, a low, mechanical growl like restrained thunder. She can feel every vibration in her chest, as if the aircraft is holding its breath with her. The cabin lights shift from gold to cold blue, bathing the passengers in digital twilight. Her reflection in the window looks otherworldly, not angry, not afraid, just aware. Across the aisle, the young woman with the phone hasn't stopped recording. The red dot blinks steady now. Someone behind her whispers, "It's on TikTok." The woman Miss Carver turns, not to confront, but to align. She meets the camera's gaze, like it's a person. "Go ahead," she says quietly. "Keep it rolling." The attendant flinches. "Ma'am, that's a violation of..." "Of what?" Her voice stays calm. "Visibility?" The supervisor returns, still trying to restore order, his expression a mix of authority and panic. "We don't need this to escalate further." "It's already escalated," she replies. "You just didn't notice until it started trending." He hesitates. The line lands heavier than intended, almost cinematic in its precision. Outside, the plane slows, waiting for takeoff clearance. Time stretches thin, suspended between apology and evidence. The young woman lowers her phone slightly. Can I ask what's happening?" Miss Carver turns toward her, voice even softer. "What's happening is the story you've seen before, the kind where someone looks like me and still has to prove she bought her own seat." Her words settle over the cabin, a quiet tremor of truth that can't be unseen. The supervisor tries again, his tone now pleading. "Let's resolve this privately." "No," she says. "You made it public the moment you questioned me out loud." The attendant's face flushes, her hands tighten around the tablet. The scanner still glows green, undeniable, steady, the one honest thing in the room. Miss Carver looks back at the camera. The passengers, the phone lights, like constellations in a too-close sky. "You can record this," she says. Then slower. Because stories like this never start in the boardroom, they start right here. The line lands like a headline, like something she's written before but never dared to speak. A man 2 rows up mumbles, "Damn!" under his breath. No one laughs this time. The engines surge again. The sound fills the cabin, a physical hum, a crescendo that seems to underscore her words. Her hand stops shaking. The control she's been forced to master now transforms into focus, the kind directors use before the camera rolls. She looks at the attendant again, gentler now. "You can sit down. I'll be fine." The attendant nods once, uncertain whether it's permission or command. The seatbelt sign dings. People start strapping in, but their eyes, dozens of them, stay fixed on her, on the screen, on the phone that's now broadcasting to strangers beyond the cabin. The Livestream counter flashes upward. 6,000 viewers. A comment scrolls across the young woman's feed. Who is she? She's calm as hell. They always test the calm ones. The camera shakes slightly as the plane turns toward the runway lights. Miss Carver closes her eyes, for half a second not to retreat, but to listen. Engines rising. breath slowing, words forming. She whispers to herself, almost inaudibly, "The seat is not power, it's proof." The plane pauses at the threshold of flight. Outside, the runway gleams like a stage waiting for its cue. Inside, the air vibrates with the weight of witnesses. And as the plane begins to roll forward, her phone buzzes once in her tote, a message from her assistant, unread, glowing faintly through the fabric. The seat is trending. She exhales, slow and steady, as the nose lifts. For the first time tonight, she's not holding her breath for anyone's permission. She looks out the window. The city lights below shrink, scattering into a mosaic of screens, every one of them watching, recording, remembering. And for the first time, her story isn't being rewritten without her. The plane levels at 30,000 feet, slicing through a sky that looks peaceful but isn't. In first class, peace is an illusion, and everyone feels it. The seatbelt sign pings off, but no one moves. The quiet isn't calm, it's containment. The attendant approaches again, posture rehearsed, eyes too wide. She holds the tablet against her chest like a shield. "Miss Carver," she begins, "our ground team has asked us to verify your booking through headquarters. It'll just take a moment." A moment. The phrase, again the polite postponement of dignity. Carver's eyes flick to the green checkmark, still glowing on the attendant's screen. "You already verified it. Twice." "I understand. But—" "No," she interrupts softly. "You understand protocol. You don't understand what it costs." The attendant blinks. "Costs?" Carver gestures around her, the neatly folded blankets, the quiet passengers pretending to read, the air so perfumed it almost hides the rot of hierarchy. "This," she says, "every time I walk into a room where my presence has to buy proof." The attendant opens her mouth, then closes it. The intercom crackles. "Cabin crew, please prepare for door closure confirmation." The announcement shouldn't make sense mid-air. But the crew's faces freeze. It's a signal, a corporate one. A message from control. The supervisor appears again, voice low, urgent. "Miss Carver, can we speak privately in the galley?" "No," she says. "You can speak here, where you doubted me." His jaw tightens. "This isn't the time or place. It became both when you made it public." He leans in, whispering through clenched teeth. "The company's social media team is monitoring this. Please, just stop feeding it." "Feeding what?" "The outrage." She studies him. "So you've seen the live stream?" A flicker in his eyes, guilt, confirmation. "Yes, and it's escalating fast. If we don't control the narrative—" "You mean rewrite it," she says. "Erase it before it embarrasses you." He doesn't respond. Behind them, a chime sounds. Passengers pretend to scroll, but the glow of screens betrays them. Tweets, comments, headlines. The seat, 28K mentions. Carver exhales slowly. The irony isn't lost on her. A lifetime building stories for screens, and now her truth is trending on one. The supervisor's voice shakes a little.
"We're requesting a statement from headquarters. They might deplane you for safety reasons."
Safety. Another word that's never neutral. Carver leans back, voice calm but cutting. Safety is the story you use to make fear sound responsible. He looks down. She sees the pulse in his neck, fast, guilty. From the cockpit, the PA bursts alive again. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're holding position before takeoff. Thank you for your patience." The cabin collectively exhales. Hold. The word vibrates through her chest like a verdict. She looks out the window, the runway lights now a blurred Morse code of hesitation. Her phone buzzes. A message from her assistant again. "Press already asking for comment. Don't say anything yet." She types back one word. "Recording." Then she lifts her phone. Turns on her own camera. Her reflection appears steady, unflinching. "Since they're documenting me," she says quietly to no one and everyone, "I'll document back." The attendant stammers. You can't. Sure I can, Carver replies. You taught me how. The engines hum louder, impatient. She faces the lens directly. Her tone now holds the weight of a producer giving direction. It's never the rule that hurts people. It's who the rule chooses to serve. The supervisor flinches. The line slices straight through corporate varnish. Behind him, the young passenger with the phone nods slowly, the silent confirmation of truth recognized. The intercom interrupts again. Cabin crew, doors closing. Please verify all passenger credentials. Carver looks up at the speaker. There's your countdown, she says softly. The supervisor looks around helplessly. A man losing control, not of a passenger, but of the story. Outside, the night deepens. Inside, the cabin becomes a studio. Lights, audience, and a woman reclaiming authorship midair. The plane doesn't move yet, but everything else has. Carver lowers her phone, exhales, and says, half to herself, "You can't silence a story already in flight." And as the engines roar back to life, the Livestream counter jumps again 220,000 and climbing. The metallic thud of the cabin door locking echoes through the aisle soft, final, unmistakable. The world outside disappears. Doors secured, prepare for departure. The announcement rings, sterile, procedural, but inside it lands like a verdict. Carver feels it, the click reverberating through her seat, her chest, her teeth. No turning back. Across the aisle, screens glow like constellations. Phones tilted up, recording, streaming, archiving. The live stream count climbs, 220,000 viewers. Every eye, both inside and beyond the plane, fixed on her. The supervisor crouches by her seat, voice low, urgent. "Please, Miss Carver, we can de-escalate this if you just cooperate." She studies him. De-escalate? He nods, sweat glistening at his temple. People are watching. This could go wrong for everyone. She tilts her head. That's the point. He blinks. Excuse me? Carver unbuckles her belt slowly, stands. The quiet movement draws every gaze like a magnet. Even the hum of the engine seems to wait. She steps into the aisle. Her voice calm, measured cuts through the tension cleaner than any shout could. You don't decide who belongs here. Silence. The words hang, suspended in the recycled air. The attendant flinches. Someone gasps. Then nothing. 3 seconds of absolute stillness. A silence so dense, it records itself. And then the phones react, light flares, notifications ping. A man near the window murmurs, "Damn," another whispers, "She said it." Her gaze sweeps the cabin. "You think you bought comfort," she says quietly, "but it came with blinders." The supervisor straightens, hands trembling. "Please, sit down, ma'am. This isn't safe," she finishes. "For who?" His lips part, but no sound comes. The question isn't meant to be answered. The intercom interrupts, awkwardly timed. "Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be taxiing shortly. Please remain seated." The irony makes someone laugh, nervous, high-pitched, real. Carver looks down the aisle, past the curtain, separating first class from coach. The curtain sways slightly with the airflow, a literal divide between narratives. She steps forward once, into the space before the curtain. "I'm not leaving," she says, loud enough for both cabins to hear. But maybe it's time some doors stop closing so easily. The sentence isn't rehearsed, but it lands like scripture. A murmur runs through the plane, not outrage, not applause, something else. Awakening. The young woman with the phone whispers, She's incredible." Carver doesn't hear it. She's looking out the window now. City lights blur below as the plane begins to move slow, deliberate, inevitable. For the first time, she doesn't feel trapped. The air feels charged, electric, not with fear, but reclamation. Her phone buzzes again, her assistant, again. CNN just picked it up. Number of the seat, 2M views. She doesn't open it. The supervisor steps back, defeated. The attendant sinks into the jump seat, eyes wide, hands clasped. Carver sits down again, buckles in. Her movements are precise, ceremonial, a declaration disguised as routine. Outside, rain streaks the window, turning the runway lights into blurred halos. Inside, the only sound is the low whine of engines building toward ascent. She closes her eyes, exhales once. Every inhale since the gate has been a negotiation. This one, this exhale, belongs entirely to her. And somewhere far beyond the clouds, where networks pulse and stories replicate, the phrase, "You don't decide who belongs here," flashes again and again. A headline, a mantra, a mirror. She doesn't smile. Not yet. Justice isn't joy, it's exposure. The plane begins its roll, and the cabin, for the first time all night, feels honest. The next morning, the airport looks nothing like it did the night before. Glass walls shimmer under camera lights. Reporters move like currents, microphones, questions, urgency. The airline's logo gleams above a podium that wasn't built for confession. Statement from Horizon Air. The PR director begins, eyes flicking between script and crowd. She reads in that practiced tone of bureaucratic empathy. We regret any misunderstanding that occurred during Flight 247. Our crew acted in accordance with policy to ensure safety and comfort for all passengers. The word misunderstanding lands heavy. Carver stands off to the side, flanked by flashes, her face calm, not angry anymore, just done. When they finish, a reporter calls out, "Miss Carver, do you plan to take legal action?" She steps forward. The crowd quiets. "Legal," she says softly. "Maybe. But what I want first is honesty." The PR woman stiffens. Carver doesn't face her. She faces the cameras. "You tried to edit me out mid-flight," she says, each word distinct. "But I write stories for a living." You can't mute the author of her own name. The line hits like thunder muffled by velvet. Every flash pops in sync, like applause caught in light. One reporter whispers to another. That's the quote. Carver continues, her voice steady, cinematic. They called it protocol. I call it a rehearsal, one this company has been performing for decades. Behind her, a monitor shows the trending feed. Number The Seat, 12, 4 M views. Number Let Her Fly, 2, 8 M comments. Her assistant hands her a phone. The top headline reads, Hollywood producer confronts airline bias live, millions watch. She scrolls briefly her own face mid-sentence, captioned, You don't decide who belongs here. She locks the screen. It's strange, she says, half to herself. When the world watches, you finally realize how many of us were never seen. Silence expands a rare kind, the kind that listens. Across the room, she spots the young flight attendant, pale, anxious, standing near a security guard. Their eyes meet. For a fraction of a second, Carver sees not the offender, but the mirror. Fear, regret, confusion. The girl mouths something that could be, I'm sorry. Carver doesn't respond. Not yet. The moment needs air. A journalist shouts, Do you forgive them? She lets the question hang. Forgiveness is a performance, too, she thinks, one she's not ready to audition for. Instead, she says, This isn't about who was wrong. It's about who gets written in. Murmurs ripple through the press. The PR woman frowns. The cameras lean closer. Carver looks directly into a lens, steady and unflinching. We can't change what happened on Flight 247, but maybe we can stop cutting people out of their own stories. That's it. No crescendo, just stillness, clean and final. A single clap breaks somewhere in the back, then another. Hesitant, then more. Not thunderous, but honest. The PR woman lowers her notes. The cameras keep flashing, but for once, not as intrusion as witness. Carver steps away from the podium. Her assistant whispers, They're already scheduling interviews. She shakes her head. No, not yet. Outside, beyond the terminal glass, planes rise into the sky one by one. Metal noise, motion. She lingers for a moment in that hum of departure, watching a jet cut through morning clouds. The reflection of her face blends with it in the glass, her and the plane, one image. Behind her, a voice mutters, "The attendant's been suspended." Carver doesn't turn around. She just exhales, slow and deliberate, as if releasing the weight of other people's lessons. Because justice, she realizes, isn't the speech. It's the silence after the kind that makes people question their own lines. Evening filters through the airport, glass long shadows, slow voices, fluorescent light softened by fatigue. The press is left. The crowd is thinned. Miss Carver sits alone near Gate 12, coffee untouched, the hum of vending machines, her only soundtrack. Her phone keeps vibrating producers, journalists, offers. She silences it. Justice, she thinks, is loud when it arrives and unbearably quiet after. Across the concourse, she spots her, the flight attendant. Plainclothes now, hair tied back, posture smaller than before. The young woman sits on a bench by the window, scrolling through her phone with shaking fingers. Carver hesitates, then stands. When she approaches, the attendant startles, clutching her bag as if expecting confrontation. "I'm not here to film you," Carver says gently. "You can breathe." The girl exhales, voice cracking. "They suspended me." Her eyes glisten. "They said it's pending investigation. I don't even know if I'll have a job next week." Tending down. With Deezer, down, tending down. Carver nods, slow. "I figured." Silence stretches, filled with things neither of them planned to say. Finally, the attendant whispers, "I didn't mean to. I swear. I was just following procedure." "I know," Carver says. "That's how bias hides best inside procedure." The girl looks up, eyes wide with shame and recognition. "You think I'm racist?" Carver shakes her head. "No. I think you're afraid. The same way I've been afraid of being misread, misplaced, mistaken." That lands. The attendant blinks hard, tears welling. "They said I looked too young to handle first class, that passengers might not take me seriously. So I overcompensated." Carver sits beside her. Two women, different sides of the same rule book. "They told me something similar," she says softly, "that my success would only be believed if I looked the part. So I overcompensated too, with calm, with control, with silence." For a long moment, neither speaks. The airport announcements echo faintly in the distance. Final boarding for Flight 312. A voice that sounds almost merciful in its neutrality. The attendant wipes her cheek. "I didn't know who you were." "You weren't supposed to," Carver says. "That's the point." The girl nods slowly, eyes red. "I'm sorry." Carver looks out the window. A plane lifts into the night, its underbelly glowing silver. "Don't apologize," she says. "Just learn. And make sure the next woman you stop doesn't have to become a headline to be believed." The attendant swallows hard, nodding. "I will." Another silence. This one softer, shared. From the overhead speakers. "Attention passengers. Horizon Air will temporarily suspend first-class service to review internal training and bias protocols." The words drift across the terminal like a quiet confession from a faceless machine. The attendant looks up. "Did you?" Carver smiles faintly. "No. The system did. Maybe it finally heard itself." They both watch the planes outside, taking off, landing, repeating, the rhythm of endings and restarts. Carver glances down at the seat between them, empty, ordinary, but somehow radiant under the terminal light. She places her boarding pass on it, half folded. The attendant looks at it, then at her. "What's that for?" Carver shrugs lightly. "A reminder that a seat isn't a status symbol. It's a space, and we both have to make room for each other in it." The girl nods, quietly overwhelmed. Carver stands. "Take care of yourself," she says. "You too," the attendant replies. Carver starts to walk away, the terminal stretching long and silver before her. Behind her, the boarding pass catches a draft, lifts, and flutters gently onto the floor, half under the bench, half visible, like a script page left open for revision. The hum of the airport continues, endless and indifferent, but something in the air feels lighter. As she exits toward the car pickup lane, Carver looks up at the blinking runway, lights the same sequence she saw from her window seat hours ago. She whispers to herself, not as a headline, but as closure. Sometimes the real upgrade is in the system, not the seat. Night settles like velvet over Los Angeles. From her office window, the city glows in fragments, screens, headlights, ambition. Miss Carver sits at her desk, laptop open. The cursor blinks on a blank page titled, "The Seat, Draft 2. Outside, the faint hum of traffic fills the silence, not noise, but continuity. She types slowly, deliberately. Scene 1. Interior. Cabin lights low. A woman stands between belonging and disbelief. Her fingers hover. She pauses, breath steady. The rhythm of her typing echoes the pulse of the engines she once felt beneath her feet. The media storm has started to quiet. The airline's public statement has shifted. We acknowledge systemic flaws in our bias training and are conducting a full review. It isn't enough, but it's something. A sound she recognizes, the first draft of accountability. She leans back, the leather chair sighing beneath her. The irony doesn't escape her. A seat again, but one she owns. On the table lies her old boarding pass creased, half folded. She traces the ink with her thumb, as if confirming she really existed in that moment, on that flight. The television hums softly in the background, a news anchor summarizing the fallout. Horizon Air announces immediate audit of premium service practices following viral incident known as The Seat. The video has surpassed 20 million views. She lowers the volume. Justice doesn't need narration. A knock on the door. Her assistant peeks in. Press wants a follow-up interview. Carver smiles faintly. Tell them the story's already told. The assistant hesitates. You sure you don't want to frame it your way? I already did, Carver says. I lived it. The door closes quietly. She turns back to the laptop. The words on screen blur for a moment as her eyes sting not from sadness, but release. She begins to write again. Power isn't the seat you're given. It's the story you refuse to surrender. The cursor blinks, patient. She exhales that same slow, deliberate breath she's been holding since the gate. The office light casts her reflection on the window, her face layered over the city skyline. Outside, a plane ascends, its underbelly gleaming white against the darkness like a page turning midair. She whispers, almost to herself, some stories don't need a rewrite. They just need the right voice. A soft smile, earned and unhurried. She saves the file. The laptop chimes the seat. Final draft. In the stillness that follows, the only sound is the night breeze brushing against the glass, carrying the faint echo of engines, that same low hum from the flight, now transformed. Justice, she realizes, was never about landing. It was about taking off, and knowing this time, the world was finally watching the right version. Fade out. So tell me, how did that ending make you feel? Do you think justice really happened here, or just the first step toward it? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every one of them. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so more people can hear stories that speak, not shout. Because somewhere out there, another seat is waiting to be reclaimed, and your voice might be the one that helps someone stand up for theirs.